This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hey, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over bugs in your pool and bugs on your pool route. I did a video a few years ago, or several years ago actually, on the boatmen bugs. This was in Indio, California, and it was actually my dad's pool and they invaded the area. That video actually has close to 100,000 views. So bugs in the pool are a pressing issue, and I'm going to cover all the different kind of bugs that are in pools. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. I'll start with one of the worst ones that I think of in my area at least. And you may not think this is bad. If you're a fisherman, you probably think this is great. But earthworms are really something that come out in force in my area whenever it rains. Usually the first rains, earthworms will come out, get into the pool, and sometimes the entire pool bottom will be covered with earthworms. I think I read about it, and it's the fact that the moisture in the soil brings them up and they kind of crawl and they don't know where they're at and they just fall into the pool. And this is a real mess in my area. It's nothing, I guess, dangerous, but they do stink. And, sometimes if when you vacuum them up into a canister, they just really reek. The smell is sometimes overwhelming, and it can be a messy cleanup for sure. That's kind of a minor thing. Another thing that we have here a lot are ants that form colonies in the tile line. A lot of times if there's cracks in the pool's tile or in the coping or on the deck, you're going to have ants crawling and getting into the pool. Kind of annoying because they fall in the water and drown and they cover the surface with their bodies. So minor annoyances, I think, when you have problems with earthworms and ants. There are other bugs that are, of course, much more pressing. I mentioned the boatman bug video in the beginning, and this is something that affects certain areas. These water boatman bugs kind of blow in with the wind, actually, and that's usually when you see them. And I mentioned Indio, California. They've had several of these kind of plagues where the bugs are everywhere on the cars, everywhere. And they go into the pools, and these bugs are really tiny. They're, really small bugs compared to the ones I'm going to talk about next, which are the backswimmers. And these bugs are really hard to kill. I mean, you could have a chlorine level of 10 parts per million, 15 parts per million, and they're just fine in the water as if nothing is affecting them. And one thing that you can do, there are some effective solutions that we discovered when I did the video. One effective solution, of course, is to put something on the surface to kind of trap them because they have to come back up for air and they'll pretty much drown. So what you want to do is take out automatic cleaner hoses so that you have nothing on the surface that they can break the surface with. They can crawl on the automatic cleaner hose and get out. So what you want to do is add maybe a liquid pool cover. That's pretty effective. This adds like a film on top, and this product is actually designed to stop evaporation by putting a slate film on the cover of the pool. Also, I find that the algicide skillet is pretty effective with these bugs also because it does the same thing with kind of a layer on the surface, and the bugs can't get back out, get air, and then they drown and eventually die in the pool. The ones that land on it can't get below the surface. So it's kind of like a shield on the pool. I think covering the pool is somewhat ineffective. Tried that also with like a solar blanket. there's just too much exposed areas when they get in. Unless you cover the entire pool and they can't get under there, and then you're probably fine in that case. But they're going to be everywhere, and I think those treatments are pretty effective. The algicide, the skillet, will actually, I think, kill them in some form, which is weird because these bugs are fairly indestructible. One thing that we were doing was putting a skimmer sock and a filter sock in the skimmer basket, because they go right through the standard skimmer basket into the filter, and it's a big mess in there with all the dead bugs. So the skimmer sock really helps. You take that out every so often, and then you spray it with bleach or liquid chlorine, and this really kills the bugs, you would think. But it's funny because we took some home to look under a microscope, and we left them in a Ziploc bag, and we didn't get around to it for like 2 weeks, and they were actually alive in the bag, which is kind of scary, that they didn't die from the chlorine spray. Some of them were still alive. Most of them were dead. So they're very durable, and they're just messy. They get everywhere. And usually it'll go away once the wind shifts, and then they find another place. I think where they were coming from, there was a golf course nearby, and the water was turned into pond kind of water, and that's where they were breeding. And when the wind shifted, it blew them into the residential pool area. So it's definitely a problem. And these are hard to eliminate because they keep falling in the pool day after day. But eventually, if you do these things, maybe the liquid pool cover would be a good way to start, or the skillet by Biodex. It's a algicide that kind of puts a film on top. And I'll mention this also when I talk about bees in the pool or wasps that are bugging you in your pool. A bug that's very similar to the boatman bug, but quite larger, and these will sting. And these are the backswimmers, and they're called this because they kind of look like they're swimming in a style. They have a long body and large back legs, and it looks like they're kind of swimming backwards, or not backwards, but they have a weird way of swimming in the pool. And basically, it feels like a bee sting if they bite you. I would say the best thing to do with these bugs, what I do with these bugs, is I use my leaf rake or skimmer, and I pull them out of the pool. I skim them. I try to get them into the net, and then I step on them. I put my leaf rake on the deck, and I step onto the fabric and crush them. And usually there's only about 4 or 5 in the pool. You have to really search for them. They like to go into the skimmer as well, so you want to make sure you get them out of the skimmer. You can pull up the skimmer basket and try to catch them while they're in the skimmer. But usually when you do that, they'll swim out the front of it. And you want to just net them out of the pool, basically, and then crush them on the deck. That's what I do. It's the most effective way. And you get kind of skilled at catching them. I just did a pool not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, where there were about 8 of them in there. And I got one, then the other. And then I just kind of kept looking at the surface, and I finally got all of them. I thought, you want to get all of them out so they don't breed and kind of expand in the pool. Once they're out on the deck, they're really easy to kill. They can't really move that fast. And so inside the net, again, just step on it with your boot, and you'll kill them pretty easily. I think they are something to be concerned about in a way, because you don't want customers swimming in the pool with the backswimmers, because chances are they could get bit. The backswimmers tend to kind of avoid people. And I don't know, it's weird. They can almost see me. I bet they can see me on the surface. When I'm trying to net them out, they get all panicky and they swim away. I'm not sure if they see me or not, but I got a feeling they can see pretty well in the water. And I just skim them out, and I just step on them. Another problem we have in my area, in some areas you have a pretty huge problem with this, is bees and wasps. Now, they really like the water, pool water, because of course they drink the water, and especially if it's really hot out and dry, they like to do that. And also wasps are attracted to the water, and they build nests nearby. So I always, of course, tell the homeowner to get a pest control out for wasps and make sure they clear all the hornet nests out of the area. And that usually will solve the problem, because they don't go too far from their nests as far as I'm aware of. And so if you can clear all the hornet's nests out of around the house, usually they're in the eaves of the home. They like to go and build nests there. Anywhere where there's a hole they can form their nests, they'll build them there. So you definitely want to clear the area of any wasps or hornet's nest, and that usually solves the wasp problem. They're kind of the ones that I'm more worried about, because they'll kind of attack you while you're cleaning the pool. And I've been chased by wasps before and hornets. Hornets are smaller, wasps are bigger. In my area, we have mainly hornets, and these are the ones that come right at you, and you're kind of dodging them by the pool, and you look kind of crazy out there. The customer, if they're watching, they don't know what you're doing. It looks like you're breakdancing, but you're trying not to get bit by these hornets. And the wasps are a lot slower. They're not as prevalent in my area. They're more, again, hornets, which are the faster ones that are more troublesome. So clearing those nests will usually keep the pool area clear of them. And for the flying insects, the liquid pool cover works pretty well. They can't really land on it. Some insects get trapped on it. So that would work pretty effectively if you have a lot of wasps or hornets or bees flying around your pool. Or you can use the skillet product that I mentioned, the algicide. It also forms like a film on top, and that also will kind of get rid of the bees and wasp problem you're having in your pool. You can also create a secondary water source for the bees. You can look online, and they describe how you can do this with a dish. Put a little sugar in the water, maybe 20 or 30 feet away from the pool, and the bees will be attracted to it. Put a few things in there so they can land on there safely and get the water they need. And they may ignore your pool source after a while if you provide like a fresh water source nearby the pool that they can get to. But sometimes all these efforts fail, and the bees are just a big problem around a pool area. But I would try that. I would try a liquid pool cover. You can even try a solar blanket. I don't like those things, so I don't really suggest them much in the podcast, but you can try that to cover the pool. And you can also create a secondary water source for the bees. In some cases, you can actually get any kind of beehive relocated. There's actually people that do this here in California. They'll come by and they'll take the beehive out of a tree and relocate it somewhere else. And you just have to call a bee service and they'll do that. So if you have a beehive nearby your pool, definitely call one of these services and they can actually relocate the bees off your property. You also want to, of course, eliminate any food sources for these insects. Trash cans, make sure they're covered, and don't have any food out by your pool or any kind of drinks that they may be attracted to, like sodas. I know if you have a soda by your pool, the bees and wasps will swarm over by it because I think it's the sugar that attracts them. So you just don't want to have anything around your pool for a while, and they should go away at that point if they're attracted to any kind of food source by your pool. If you have pollinating plants, that's a big problem too. I mean, they're just going to come to the property because of all the pollinating plants around the property. You probably don't want to tear up the customer's garden or suggest that, but it's just a seasonal thing usually, and then they'll go away after a certain part of the season, which thankfully is usually at the beginning of the season here, and you don't have too much of a problem. One or two errant bees here and there later in the season when it's really hot. Spiders can be a problem as well, and in my area, black widows are a pretty big problem around the pool area. They can, if you have any kind of lawn chairs around there, or if you have a diving board still, which is pretty rare nowadays in my area, but they love to build their webs under a diving board area. But the place where I find that you get the most black widows, and the skimmer lid companies don't help us here, they design it actually perfectly for a nest in there, is a little circle area at the bottom of the directly in the center of the skimmer lid. I don't know why they put that there. Maybe they need that there when they manufacture it to put it on a post or something while they're building it. I don't know. But there's always this little circle area right in the center of the skimmer lid on most skimmers lids. And that's where the black widows are at. They're just right in there. And those can be scary when you take the skimmer lid off. Now, I have been bitten on my leg by a black widow, but luckily there was very, very little symptoms. It just depends on how much venom it has at that moment. It may have just fed, I think, and so it wasn't too bad. I wasn't even paying attention to what was going on, and I didn't even know that it was on my leg, and it didn't really get me too good, I don't think, but that can happen. The symptoms, you can, if it's really bad, you can get cramps, and it's a really bad reaction, but I was pretty fine with it. I wasn't too worried. Now, I always wear my gloves. If you want my gloves that I wear out there, these are the nitrile gloves. If you go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage, there's pool guy gear, and in there is a link to Amazon where you can get my nitrile gloves. So I feel really protective. I'm taking the skimmer lids off with these gloves on. Of course, if I see a black widow in there, I'll quickly crush it and kill it, and that solves the problem. But they're a very fast spider, so you have to make the kill quick and swift. Otherwise, they're going to get away, and they're probably going to hold a grudge against you for trying to kill it. So definitely you want to kill it right away and open those skimmer lids carefully and be careful of that. Sometimes they're actually in the area where the weir gate's at too. I've had that happen too, and they kind of crawl up when I put my vacuum, my hose there. It's kind of scary, but you definitely want to eliminate the spiders. I would suggest if you see a lot of black widows everywhere around the equipment area, all over the place, have the customer call pest control to spray. And of course, there are spiders all over the place. I think once someone told me there are like more spiders per acre than any other insect. Probably true. And you'll run into like webs all the time while you're out there. It's again one of those things where if a customer is watching you, they think you're losing your mind, because you're like going crazy and the web's all over you, and you're afraid you're dusting off your shoulders or your back. And those spiders are usually harmless, by the way. I've run into so many of those webs and had the spiders crawl off my shirt. I don't really worry about it. I don't like spiders particularly, but I know the ones that are like in those webs that you run into in the trees or getting to the equipment area are fairly harmless compared to the black widows that are out there that you should really be careful and cognizant of. And of course, the black widow web is really strong, so you can tell the difference right away. It's very strong and sticky compared to the other spiders, which are relatively harmless, I think, in most cases. And I'll end with one bug that is pretty prevalent if you use St. Augustine grass. So if a customer is pretty popular in my area, St. Augustine grass is really good because not a lot of stuff can form it. It's actually something that can actually take over your neighbor's yard too. It's a really durable grass. It goes dormant in the winter, but you don't get a lot of weeds in there or, ragweed or any kind of other grass that grows in there. So it's really popular. But there's a bug that actually lives in the St. Augustine grass. It's called the chinch bug, Chinch. And I've had this problem before where these little bugs are all in the pool, and it's like, where are they coming from? They're like microscopic bugs. They're smaller than the smallest ant, and they're just like hopping all over the place in the pool, on the coping. And they're actually from the St. Augustine grass when they're laying fresh grass down. They're in the grass itself. And if the pool area is close enough to the grass, they'll get into the pool and cause a mess in there. The best thing you can do for the chintz bugs, I found this solution, is get a solution of soap, dish soap, and put it in a spray bottle, kind of like what you do to clear the surface of a pool before you start skimming it. And this kind of makes the viscosity of the water hard for the bugs to land on and stay on, and they kind of drown basically. So you could spray the coping as well, and I would even spray the St. Augustine grass around the pool area. So I've done this before. I've had a pool where the coping and the grass was right next to the pool. So I got a spray bottle with dish soap and water. I sprayed all the coping, and I sprayed the St. Augustine grass maybe a foot or so into it, all the way around the pool area, and then I sprayed the pool area by the tile line. I did this for about 2 weeks every time I visited the pool, and that seemed to have solved the problem with the chintz bug. So something to be aware of. It's not super common, but if you do have St. Augustine grass, and if you have fresh grass laid down, this could be a problem. And keep that on your radar if you in an area where they use a lot of St. Augustine grass. Of course, Florida, and I would say St. Augustine, Florida, would be an area where they would have the St. Augustine grass, I would assume. But here in California, it's a popular grass form as well, and this is a bug to be aware of. Looking for other podcasts I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and Monday through Friday, I post a podcast there as well. And if you're looking at my coaching program, you can learn more at poolguidecoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.